It's now my honor to introduce Mark Wallace, who will be discussing Iran and counter-extremism. Mr. Wallace is the CEO of United Against Nuclear Iran, UANI, known as WANI, a bipartisan advocacy group he co-founded. Note that verb, he co-founded. Interested to find out what happened to his co-founder. In 2008, to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. Under his leadership, WANI has launched numerous successful private sanctions campaigns and legislative initiatives to curb economic support for Iran's regime until it abandons its nuclear ambitions, its support for jihad, and its human rights violations. Prior to founding UANI, Mr. Wallace served as the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations for Management and Reform under President George W. Bush. UANI's effectiveness in countering Iranian attempts to acquire nuclear weapons has won international recognition. In particular, in September 2019, the Islamic Republic of Iran paid UANI a backhanded compliment by putting the group on its so-called terrorist list. For you and me, that is a criticism that endorses the group and shows its effectiveness. Ambassador Wallace, please come. Ladies and gentlemen.
I'm really delighted to be here, and I have to say a little bit of a word about Josh. That was a wonderful speech, by the way. Well done. But next up is my great friend Masih Alinejad, and it's really great to be speaking before Masih because Kambiz, who's known as the Ayatollah affectionately in my household, is the target of Iranian assassination. We've all read about that. We've heard about that. And it speaks so much about our policy that a great fighter like Masih could be targeted by Iranian assassins on American soil. But a little known fact, because I'm not as famous, I've been a little bit of a target of that too. And I've gotten a little bit of that myself. And I like saying that it's always great to be with Masih because it just means that I make this joke. I just have to run faster than Masih whenever I am because I'm pretty safe. The problem with that analysis is she's really fast and wiry and really quick, and yeah, I can't get past her. But speaking before means that I can sneak out of the room if I have to. So Masih, we're delighted to be here with you. Look, I want to talk about some other things. I run United Against Nuclear Iran. I've worked with a lot of you, and I give a lot of talks, and this is different for me. Why? Because we all agree. Like you all have been at the plate for a long time. Daniel, you've been doing this, not many people have been working in this space longer than me, you have. And you've been an incredible hero in the sense of speaking your mind and speaking the hard truths, right? And that truth has been coming home to roost lately because we're seeing it play out, right? Daniel, I've known you for a long time. I don't normally speak to your group, this group, or colleagues because I try to convince other people. And I want to talk about our work at the Counter-Extremism Project. I run something called the Counter-Extremism Project, which was an offshoot of UANI a number of years ago. We engage in economic and cyber warfare against terror regimes and terrorist groups and focus on anti-Semitism. For years, I tried to acquire something called the Rudolf Höss House, the Commandant's house at Auschwitz. Some of you might have heard of it. I have acquired the Rudolf Höss House, and we announced it on January 27th of this year, and to turn it into a center to fight anti-Semitism and to bring fellows from around the world and to use the house of the most horrid murderer in history that had the theology, if you will, of hate, to turn it on its head. There was a movie called The Zone of Interest. Some of you might have heard about it. It was a very complicating factor for me because when the movie came out, we had been trying to buy it for years. It had been passed through descent to multiple families in Poland. It's complicated to acquire it. Even if we could pay a Nazi premium, we didn't really want to pay a Nazi premium. But when the Zone of Interest came out, it really hit the issue, although it did discuss sort of the inherent banality of evil. I think it got that wrong, in my opinion. I don't normally say that, so don't quote me on that. But we decided we were going to turn this with partners, into something that I think has been missing. And I am not insulting my people. But for 80 years, we've been taught to never forget. Elie Wiesel is brilliant. He's an incredible man. He also said in 1986 that sometimes we must do more. We must interfere. Because never forgetting, memorializing, and not forgetting those that lost us was supposed to convince us and convince others that it couldn't happen again. 80 years in, how is that going? Not well. And the ubiquity of anti-Semitism in our society 80 years after the thesis of never forget shows that something's wrong. And I think that the Huss House and what we're trying to do there and what Huss represented is the essence of the issue and what Wiesel said in 1986. Why is that? If you look at the essence of what Auschwitz and the other camps stand for, we have been taught the lessons of Jewish life in Poland. Daniel, your family was Polish. My family is Polish before that as well. How many Poles are left in Poland? Jewish Poles are there right now? About 8,000, something like that, from a high of 600,000 to 700,000. What was Jewish life like prior to the Holocaust? In Ascension, Jews thrived. There were football teams. There was a car manufacturer. There was an incredible culture there. And then we've been taught the industrial scale slaughter of our people. And gosh, we've done a good job of that, and we should. All of us, I'm sure, have been to Auschwitz. I spent a lot of time there, probably too much time. And we've seen a little bit of the museumification, a little bit of the Disneyfication of the slaughter of our people, because it's been so perfected of how to do that. But what's been missing is what we're experiencing today, the ideology that was underpinning it. Because I'll bet you all don't know this. Rudolf Huss, who was the communist, you saw the movie or have come to the house, which people are starting to do. Rudolf Huss lived on the wall in a villa with his family, with his 3 children. They gardened, they had a swimming pool, they had a patio, and they lived the life of Riley, all underneath literally the shadow of gas chamber 1 and crematorium number 1, which he built as the experiment to perfect the final solution. To be clear, Himmler, Goebbels, Mengele, Huss would sit smoking cigars in their winter garden, playing in their, feeding in their garden, literally next to the crematorium, while our people were cast down in ashes into that sacred ground. I want you to know what the problem is that was hidden for 80 years. The Zone of Interest did a good job showing that. We're trying to show that right now. It's the ideology. We all share lots of things, but we all have a house next door. We all have a neighbor. And the ubiquity of anti-Semitism in society suggests that anti-Semitism is lurking so close it could be in the house next door. And why? Because the part that's been missing, the 2.2 million people, those wonderful people that go to Auschwitz and tour it every year and see those first 2 elements, don't understand the ideology that it was so normal that these people that perpetrated these crimes could live and frolic and swim in a house, literally underneath, as the ashes of millions of people descended upon them. I would submit to you that our job, not you all, because this is, I don't know, sometimes I don't know what I'm doing here actually, because you all have interfered. This is the crowd that interferes. We need to convince the rest of our people and others that we must interfere and not allow that hatred to blossom and to continue. And that ideology, which was so right there, right? So terrible. Look, Daniel, I have something for you. It's a little weird when your speaker gives you and honors you, but you deserve it because you've been doing this for a long time. When we took the house in June of last year, after years of trying, and the house next door, which was part of it and subdivided, I'm not a very religious Jew. I did something unthinking. I put a mezuzah on the doorpost of the Huss house at Auschwitz. I thank you. I don't think I deserve applause because there was no malice aforethought to that, to stick it to anybody. And I said, this house is now open to all. And for whatever reason, that mezuzah on the doorpost has, I don't like using terms like this because I'm old and I don't know what it means. Every world leader that goes to Auschwitz now goes to touch that mezuzah, goes to visit that house, and is ready to fight extremism, right, and to fight anti-Semitism. Because if you don't understand the ideology that was behind it, the comfort with which these people lived as they killed our people, they didn't just kill them. They didn't just slaughter them. They didn't just erase them. They frolicked about underneath the ashes. That's what we're experiencing today. So Daniel, I have something for you, weird, but I think you deserve this. It's very dear to us. When you look at the people that have interfered, there have been very few. Daniel's one of them. Daniel and I aren't close. I know Daniel, we've worked in the same spot, but he's interfered. You all have interfered. Our job is to convince everyone else to interfere. When we were renovating the house, we found the windows that overlooked Auschwitz. I'm a sidewalk archaeologist. I'm in the backyard going through debris, and I see windows. And I look down, I look up at the house facing the wall's in the backyard. I realize the windows have been replaced. I look down, the windows underneath this debris are right there. I cleared the debris. You know what was the windows that were there? What was unique about them? The windows had pebble glass. You couldn't see through them. Huss and his family didn't want people to see in, and he didn't want to see out what was happening just over the wall, looking at crematoria number 1 and 2. We found prisoner pants in the house. They were clearly a woman's. He was known to rape women in the tunnel beneath the wall and wash himself in the sink. It's still there, where he would traverse. Not Jews. The Jews weren't good enough for him to rape, so he raped communists that were there. But we found Waffen-SS China, various things in this place. So I guess by putting that mezuzah on, it became a symbol of interference. And we've been renovating this house and doing things, working with the museum and otherwise. By the way, do you know what's in the gardens where Hedwig Huss grew 100 roses every week to deliver Hitler? The Auschwitz Museum grows vegetables for its director and its staff. Maybe things haven't changed as much as we would like, and that never forgetting hasn't been quite enough. So what we did, the roof was put on by the Nazis as they raised and put on a 3rd floor. We had extra tiles, and you see the Nazi markings on these. And we converted them into, not very many, into mezuzahs. And so, Daniel, I wanted to say, really use you as a device, my friend, because I think you would appreciate that, and say, because of what you've done in your interference, I wanted to give you this as a symbol and to say, you've been interfering, and we need to get everyone else to interfere. And even though everyone in this room has been interfering, we need to get others.